Um, so recently I decided to make an archive of my YouTube channel because still really paranoid about getting banned. But I guess it's technically could count as a new start. Not really, but like season 2, I guess. Because now I have two folders. One of every video before this one, and now I'm going to have another one for every video after this one when I make the second archive. So it's like kind of season 2. To celebrate that, I'm going to look through this journal. So I owned a journal before I got... Well, I used it after too. Before and after I got sent to UBC and Eugene and getting expelled and all that blah 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 drama. Before and after all that, I stopped using it. But, yeah, I had a journal. The first 2 pages is just written the alphabet and numbers 3 times so that people could understand my handwriting. There's actually not a lot in here, and majority of the philosophy videos, like the really short one at the start of this entire playlist, you could tell because it's like part 9, part whatever. Those ones are these from the journal in some way or form. I have them. The first 2 pages are written badly because I didn't know how to write in a journal. I just talked about the stuff I did at school, how I don't like the whole self-help stuff because it's stupid and usually misunderstands. A whole thing about, like, yeah, this journal is very self-reflective. Like, the entire motive for my first attempt, the thing about cute core isn't now the name of the philosophy because I was so narcissistic. And some things about TCC, whatever. That's something I said. I used to think certain people were good philosophers who I disagree with now, which I guess is something. I talked about, this really isn't that put together, but it's just something of the past, I guess. Talking about incest ships, Devin, which is a guy with the purple and black hair, I think you know, on TCC and stuff. Ribbon Cest, Craft Cest, Symbol Cest, Strider Cest, and Verdi and Mortis. You had a lot of things here about like certain denominations that I didn't like and how much I hated quote people, like all those apathetic people. And I don't know if I completely went into now, but yeah, that's just a few things. It has a lot of stuff about it works as a journal, I think. Although some of the stuff feels really fake, but that's just something that I have. Like, majority of the things I make always feel fake or plastic or secular. I don't know. But that's reflected here. Opinions on people I know. Critiques. Always stuff, I guess. Oh, I made this philosophy thing. The whole on philosophy thing. Oh, yeah. I keep saying normals, even though I said normies. Like, who says normies? Be so for real. And it's like, you could tell when I switched from philosophy in the traditional sense to philosophy in the Lancist sense, and better philosophy. Because here, in majority of the journal stuff, which you can see in the first few videos, I was mostly post-Stirnerite. I was talking about the ego and philosophy and deluding yourself and how the ego... Okay, his quote here. The ego is all. All people act selfishly regardless of action. Altruism is ego, and social constructs are just ideas. And the whole post-ego is stuff of the will and all of that. And culture is a cult, it is not something natural. Worst kind of spook. I used the word spook a lot back then. Marx and Sterners are just justifications. Yeah, you can tell with this. And on the suicide thing, with the unlike Sterner, irrational egoism is fine if it makes you happy. Blah blah blah. Because I don't like dialectal egoism. I think it's a stupid idea. And you can tell through all of this that it was mostly based on Stirner's ideas. My entire thought and beliefs were based on Stirner back then. Then I switched to a more cultural based than the individual. Although I still hold post-Stirnerite ideas. Complaining about social constructs. A ton of sexual shit for some reason. I don't feel like that right now. Sometimes I generally have to force myself to even talk or participate in any of that stuff, because it's sometimes you want to do that, sometimes it's I'd rather put a bullet for my head or something. I don't know. I'm not incel. I don't know why I called myself that. Some self-reflection on how I disassociate my past from myself, which is completely a coping mechanism. In its most obvious sense, it's a coping mechanism. More whining about me, which is mostly my fault. Oh, calling my dad, that's something. More whining about things I could have easily prevented. Oh yeah, the moral things, where I refuse to say, go kill and rape puppies, because I was like, oh, that's way too bad. Oh no, I'm saying it now, go kill and rape puppies. But before I was like, oh, that's so bad. If I was being edgy when I said that, that's a point. In that specific scenario, I needed to say something that was extremely edgy to get my point across, that it's yeah, go do edgy stuff too, even though edgy stuff is cringe and blah blah blah. I mean, if it makes you happy, do whatever. But I was like, oh no, that's so gross. I'm not edgy. Well, I'm not edgy. I don't like edgy people. I don't like cringe stuff. But if you want to do it, then go do it. Yeah, the whole thing of post-egoism and glamorization and romanticization of ignorance, which I still believe. I still think that living in ignorance is better. More complaining about myself. I'm not even smart mentally. A gullible shithead. I'm not gullible or a shithead. I don't know why I was whining here. Immature and unlikable, sure. I like myself though, so. Logical, no, I'm not. I'm very logical. Creative. Read passage above. That was so cringe. I hope you yeah. Then here's me basically sucking my own dick, metaphorically, about how awesome I am right after, and for some reason, and back to coping mechanisms. Yeah, I don't know, it's very psychotic as a child, I guess. Scene core isn't seen, by the way. I still like scene core, but complaining about manipulation as if I didn't just do that a few days ago and stuff. Whoops. Oh yeah, and then here's where I really began to take on the ancestor ideology. Although in this paper, in these works, even after I take on the ancestor ideology, I still write like a Sternerite. Value does not exist. Culture is growth/bullying. It's grooming. Codes equals new culture. Terrorism equals new state. Nothing has meaning/purpose. Counterculture is culture. Culture is the spook of all spooks. This completely misses my cultural dialect, because this is before I made it. Suffering is life-affirming. Yes, it is, but life is not suffering. I disagree on that, because suffering is completely subjective to the person and whatever. I don't think suffering doesn't exist. I think that it's a very quantum thing. It passes my methodology as it exists because it's not a social construct, but only because it's not a social construct. That's the only reason suffering exists, and that's what makes it so hard. And then here's me just making a sexual joke about Lanza. Yeah, go make sexual jokes about myself. Beautiful. On hypocrisy, yes, I'm a hypocrite. Great, great. What? Am I supposed to cheer you on? Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever. No. And then I define hypocrisy as pretending to have morals, or breaking your own moral code. Both of those are fine. Yeah, hypocrisy is fine. I mean, it doesn't really harm anyone innately to break your own moral code or like pretend to have morals when you actually don't. I mean, it's necessary. The majority of people suffering from cluster B disorders have to fake a moral code in order to live, because that's what you do. Even if you don't have morals, in order to partake in society, you have to be a hypocrite in a positive way. Ableist towards cluster B individuals are just, it's insane. I'm not cluster B though. Apparently I'm autistic. And then I have a TLDR, which is like really cringe, going, I don't care, hypocrisy based, when I write a literal thing that is. And then how I'm totally ultra progressive thing, where I see Lanza in a Stirnerite setting, even though now I see Stirner in a Lanza setting. It's like a complete 360. I try to justify Lanza through Stirnerite ideas, but now Stirner's just like a background for my post-egoist ideas, which come from here, by the way, because once again, this is the start of my phone turned off. Sorry, this is the start of my post-egoist philosophy, which is like the first 10 videos or whatever, and the true ultra-progressive stuff, where I try to create a true egoist, which, by the way, is completely hypocritical, because once again, no truth, no objective truth. But here I was saying that as it's constantly applied to a social construct like egoism, because egoism and being an egoist is a social construct, meaning actually there is a true egoist in a socially constructed way. It's not being irrational, and the will to live, the will to die, the will in general are social constructs. And the ego is a social construct. Here I try to say the ego exists in a way, but like later on I changed that to say the ego doesn't exist when I talk about the will and how it mostly doesn't fit to the methodology and all of that. You've already seen that. Talking about how truth ruins philosophy because philosophy is about deluding yourself, and truth is not real and depressing. It's never been depressing for me though, because I'm always happy. But the entire thing's just me talking about how you should totally delude yourself. And then here's me talking about making the joke about Adam Ransom being my past self or something, which I'm still running by that joke for some reason. The solution to my deism, which is post-Mainlander or post-pessimistic atheism. Yeah, post-pessimistic, post-Mainlander, this is the entire thing. I take Mainlander's solution to cosmological argument, his whole, the Big Bang is God, and I take away all the spiritual aspects of its argument and replace it with a strictly contradiction-based argument. So I take his argument and I change it. But I take his argument and I take it right out of his entire philosophy. So therefore, not only do I do post-Mainlander by taking one part of his philosophy out of all of his philosophy, then I do it again by taking only aspects of his argument from his philosophy. It's not post-Mainlander, it's just normal post-Mainlander. I talked about how my mind works and why I can never make these stupid philosophy videos. And then I started talking more about the will and the ego, which talks about basically how the ego doesn't exist, and the will, which is the mindset of the ego, via Mainlander's definition of what the will is, not Schopenhauer. Via Mainlander's definition, the will is the mindset of the ego. And I write basically how the ego doesn't exist in a way. And that hedonistic egoism, which is irrationalism. Oh, I said it was a spookless form here. No, hedonism is a spook. Any ism is a spook. So, who cares? I'm tired of saying spooks. Spooks aren't bad. Whatever. Be irrational. Be stupid. Be dumb. Whatever. Then, when I use Mainlander's idea of woe on the ego, I basically create the idea of hedonism, because normal egoism, by Stirner's definition, puts value on life, which therefore puts life above humanity. So Stirner hates spooks because it puts values on things and puts those values over mankind. Stirner wants to put all values under mankind. But then he puts the value of life over mankind and refuses to put it under mankind, because that's hedonism, and he doesn't like hedonism because he thinks desire is a value. Desire is a subjective value based on the idea of man. Therefore, it's not as objective value like everything else, like living. So that's enough for post-Stirnerist thing. My idea on the whole thing of the rational egoist is irrational, but I do reject the idea that hedonistic egoism is a spookless form. It's a spookful form. It's just less spookful than will to live and will to die and all that stuff. Egoism is still a spook. And here's the scratched out critique on Marx, because I was obsessed ML and couldn't admit that, Lenin could be wrong. Whatever. And here's me talking about how people are just people, and I don't really have a lot of emotional attachments to people or whatever. And here's when I actually attempted to end my life and got myself expelled. Then here's the thing about how I don't think chance equals divine interference. You cannot show me God in my face. That would not make me a believer. Here's just a ton of things about how I don't like uniqueness, and when I first decided to call myself a cute chorist. 4/27/25. Cute chorist. But basically, the philosophy is based off of the idea that uniqueness does not exist, basically. There's no value, no special, nothing. And then here's just me complaining again on spiritual and idealistic philosophies. And then, oh, this is kind of suicidal. Oh yes, I sure do want to go grow up and get exploded every day and live a boring life. So fun. Okay. They would say I would be depressed because of that or something. Yeah, it's so stupid. OMG, do on the each. The stupid song or whatever. I don't even know. It's not called do on the each though. It's called something else. More complaining about myself. My misanthropic rant that you saw earlier about how people are robotic and stuff. That's just me drawing in my own. It's a Luciferian misanthropic symbol. Yeah, that's kind of crunchy, I guess. More drawing and stuff, and complaining about TCC, which is now hate, by the way. How more this is a victim. My critique on Christianity, which, we've already read out. Because I hate free will, and I hate free will, and I hate free will. And if I was religious, I would hate free will even more. And how I complained about people saying I'm repressing my trauma. I'm not. Me complaining about how I'm not autistic. And here's the part where I actually talk about my YouTube channel. This is when I created it, Cultural Rebirth. A dialectal picture that I already have in my post-era. The Letter Killeth was a good book. It's similar to Marcion's antithesis. I used to be a Marcionite. Marcionite because I joined a neo-Marcionist group believing in Marcionite Christianity because I wanted to be Christian for a while. And that's the same time where I started rage-baiting as an anarcho-fascist. I wrote a critique on Marcionism in my Google Docs. I'm never going to read that out because it's kind of personal, but basically, Marcionite groups leave Marcionism, like main doctrines of Marcionism, and to real Marcionite doctrine, there would be heretics. Also, Marcionism is heretical because it doesn't even hold up in its common sense, and it's written like way later, and there's a bunch of flaws with it, and things he got wrong, and a ton of other things, and it has all the same issues as Christianity. It's just because, think about it, two gods or whatever. And by the way, they reject the notion of two gods. in neo-Marcionite groups, like the modern Marcionites, they are heretics to Marcion, because that's like the main foundation. And then Marcion Knights, like the original ones, are heretics because two gods doesn't really make sense. Even Apollos' idea of one god and a lower demiurge-like angel thing, that's also heretical, because that would give more power over the angel in a way. And if it was truly a divine angel, then he wouldn't be able to do that. Same thing with Lucifer and the whole issue of that, and free will and angels. And here's when I get to the end, where I leave a message, and I drew country religion bowls right after the message about my final message of as of now. The next page I start drawing religion bowls, as if I didn't just say that was my final message. But whatever, I don't care. I love JOS, that's a religion bowl. Short of Satan Ministries, that's a religion bowl. So silly. So cute. I don't really have much to say now. I finally finished listening to all Lanza videos for the second time. Like all of them, straight up. I have a bloody tissue from my nosebleeds. I had like 4 of them in one day, right? All over this tissue. Then I did 5 days after that happened? 5 days after that, so it wasn't really recent, it was already dried up, but yeah, I licked it and stuff. I don't know why. Okay, yeah, I think that's gonna be the first video for the season 2 of Whatever Philosophy. I still need to find the solution to cultural dialect, since just making the population nihilists would be an anarchist solution, because that wouldn't really work out. It's like I'm saying for the ANCOMs, the ANCOMs have their whole idea of immediate revolution to communism. That wouldn't work. Therefore, nihilism as a solution to cultural dialect would be the same effect. Just immediate rejection to nihilism would destroy culture. That doesn't make sense. There has to be a gradual process, just like with the Marxists. So that's my main issue as of now. Oh, this fidget spinner is broken.